mind can be a cage or a door. He chose to open it. I hadn't seen him in years. Before, his life was a collection of fair excuses. I wasn't born for that. Life is hard. I'm fine just surviving. He was one of those people who carry scarcity like someone wearing an inherited backpack, without questioning it, without ever letting it go, always getting by day to day, but never at peace, always working, but never arriving. And yet, that afternoon when I saw him cross the street with that confidence that only someone who no longer owes anything to anyone has, I knew something had changed. He didn't dress like a millionaire, but his presence was different. He had something in his eyes, not shine, not arrogance. He had peace, certainty, weight. We sat down, we talked, and in the middle of everything, without preamble, without explanation, he told me, I was poor until I activated my magic mind. I looked at him expecting a joke, but he wasn't joking, nor was he trying to impress me. He was just saying it like someone who has just told their greatest truth. Magic mind, I said doubtfully. Yes, he responded, because money never lacked outside. It lacked inside me. It lacked in how I thought, in how I spoke, in how I felt when I didn't have it. I didn't need to learn to generate more. I needed to learn to stop blocking what was already ready to arrive. Since then, I haven't stopped thinking about that. What if poverty doesn't start in the pocket, but in the way we think when we're empty? What if there's a part of you that already has the power to create more, but remains turned off by ideas that aren't even yours? This is not the story of someone who became rich overnight. It's the story of someone who became conscious, and when consciousness changes, money arrives as a consequence. This audiobook is that. A map toward that mind, a magic mind. Now, you just have to learn to use it in your favor through these 7 codes, 7 decisions, 7 new ways of thinking, feeling, and receiving. Not to attract money like a prize, but to align yourself with it as a natural state, because when your mind changes, your pocket obeys. Code 1. The purpose that opens portals. Nothing manifests without direction. Energy doesn't respond to desire, it responds to clarity. Money doesn't move toward where there's anxiety, it's attracted to where there's focus, purpose, and expansion. When you don't have a true why, the universe has no way to deliver what you ask for. It's like sending a letter without an address, like planting a seed without soil. That's why this first code awakens the navigation center of the magic mind, its ability to focus energy on a real purpose. Not dreamed, not copied, not borrowed, but one that's born from within, with strength, with meaning. Most people say they want abundance, but if you ask them what for, the answer dilutes. To be well, to not worry, to live peacefully. And although they all sound valid, they're not clear. And when the purpose isn't clear, the energy doesn't activate. The magic mind needs direction, and not just any direction. It needs one that's emotionally charged, emotionally coherent, emotionally powerful. Money loves certainty and loves even more the commitment to a destiny. When I understood this, I stopped writing lists of things I wanted to manifest and started building a map. A map with concrete destinations, with deep reasons, with aligned decisions. I no longer said I want to earn more. I said I want to free up time to create without fear. I want to take care of my family without having to calculate every expense. I want to travel to expand myself, not to escape. And it was there when the magic mind lit up, because it stopped functioning like a loose radar and started operating like a directed channel. And when that happens, everything changes. Your thoughts change, your emotions align, your decisions become cleaner, your energy organizes itself. And what before seemed distant starts to arrive through unexpected paths. If you ever felt frustrated because you already visualized, you already gave thanks, you already worked, and still nothing changed, probably what was failing wasn't your intention, it was your direction. You were asking without knowing exactly what for. And a magic mind doesn't activate with doubts, it activates with focus. That's why this first code is key. It helps you get out of the diffuse state of someday, hopefully, if possible. And it installs you on the firm ground of, this is what I'm going to sustain. This is what I deserve. This is what my energy is building. Your practical activation is simple, but deep. Create your financial purpose map. Don't start with how much you want to earn. Start with what for do I want more? What do I want to liberate? What do I want to multiply? What experiences do I want to sustain without guilt? Who do I want to impact when I have more than enough? The more clarity you have in your answers, the more strength your magnetic field will have. Because it's not about desiring, it's about projecting with emotional structure. And that's what distinguishes someone who plays with energy from someone who lives from it. The magic mind awakens when it has a direction that makes it fall in love, a vision that expands it, and a motive that justifies its power. And you already have it. Now you just need to remember it. In the next code, you're going to learn one of the most powerful keys of the magic mind, the art of freeing up space so that the new can enter. And not just material space, but emotional space, energetic and financial. Code 2, the void that invokes. Nothing new can enter if you don't make space. And it's not just about throwing away old things, but about releasing what takes up space without contributing energy. The magic mind doesn't grow among emotional remains. It doesn't activate in the middle of disorder. It needs clean space for abundance to feel welcome. And if there's no void, there's no entry. This code can be uncomfortable because it confronts you with everything you keep just in case, everything you hold on to out of fear, out of habit, out of attachment. But the truth is simple. What no longer adds is subtracting from you. What you no longer are is blocking you. Many people ask for changes without understanding that the universe doesn't deliver on a disordered base. You can't bring something bigger if your life is still organized to sustain the small. That's why the void is creative. It's not loss, it's preparation, it's not renunciation, it's openness. But you have to do it consciously because your mind is trained to conserve, not to release. Fear is always going to tell you that you need more, when in reality, what you need is less. Less noise, less consumption, less useless accumulation, and more clarity, more order, more energetic oxygen. I remember once when I couldn't advance economically. Although I did everything I was supposed to do, I worked more, I looked for opportunities, I repeated affirmations, but nothing moved until I reviewed my space and my flow. I had automatic expenses I no longer remembered, clothes I hadn't used in years, a wallet full of old tickets and wrinkled bills, relationships that drained me without me realizing it, and an agenda full of things that no longer represented me. That was the invisible weight, and it was there where I understood that abundance wasn't lacking. What was lacking was a place to receive it. That's why this code is so powerful, because it's the one that opens the channel. And once you open that channel, the magic mind starts to breathe. Your energy lightens, your environment changes, your decisions become cleaner, and then the new begins to appear. But not as a miracle, but as a natural effect of having given the universe permission to deliver more to you. Your practical activation for this code is simple but deep. Do the void ritual for 7 days. Eliminate an expense that no longer makes sense, a subscription you no longer use, an object that no longer represents your identity. For a week, don't buy on impulse. Don't buy out of anxiety. Buy only from clarity. And every time you let go of something, do it with intention. This is leaving so that something better can arrive. Because the void is not absence, it's presence in waiting. The magic mind activates when the space is ready, not before. That's why this code is non-negotiable. If you don't clean the ground, you can't plant new seeds, and your next abundance is waiting for you to make room for it. The next code awakens a truth that may make you uncomfortable. What you receive is directly linked to how much you believe you're worth, not what you say you're worth. Code 3, the price of your presence. The universe doesn't pay you for what you do, it pays you for how you value yourself while doing it. And this code is uncomfortable because it's not about changing outside, but about looking inside. How much are you worth to yourself? Not as a concept, not as a discourse. How much do you believe an hour of your presence is worth, a decision of yours, an idea of yours, your energy when you're focused, inspired, firm? Because the money you receive is not a reward, it's a reflection. And if you don't like the reflection, it doesn't get fixed by demanding more, it gets fixed by recognizing more. This code activates a forgotten part of the magic mind, the center of worthiness, that space where you stop asking for permission and start sustaining what you're worth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. There are people who do a lot, give everything, make an effort, train themselves, give themselves over, and still receive little. Why? Because deep down they feel they still don't deserve more, because they learned not to make others uncomfortable, to charge less, to be silent, to postpone. And energy responds to that. It responds to doubt. It responds to the fear of shining, to the need for approval. And that's where this code cuts that pattern, because you can't attract abundance if you continue functioning from the scarcity of self-esteem. You can't sustain wealth if you feel guilt when receiving. And you can't expand if every time you charge something, you internally question whether you're worth it. Activating the magic mind at this point is learning to charge from integrity, not from excuse. It's stopping giving away your time as if it had no value. It's looking at what you know, what you lived, what you learned, what you can deliver, and putting a price on it. Not from arrogance, but from truth. And you don't need to be the best. You need to be conscious of what your energy delivers when it's focused and present, because that's what really gets paid. Your presence, your commitment, your clarity. Your practical activation is to design your personal value chart. Do it with paper and without filter. Write how much your ideal hour is worth, that one in which you're not distracted, in which you give your best. How much is an idea that changes something in another person worth? How much does it cost to say no to what you no longer want? How much more do you deserve for stopping betraying yourself? This chart is not to show it, it's to reprogram yourself so that the next time someone questions your price, you don't feel the need to justify it because you already did the internal work, and a mind that recognizes itself stops begging. The magic mind activates when you activate your own value, when you stop waiting for someone to give it to you and decide to sustain it yourself, because no one can pay you more than what you believe you're worth, and you right now are worth more than what you've charged until today. In the next code, you're going to learn to circulate money with consciousness, not to spend it without restraint or to save it from fear, but to become a clean channel where energy enters, is honored, and multiplies. Code 4. The dance of money. Money is not static. It's not an object that's kept and cared for like a secret. Money is energy, and like all energy, it needs to move to stay alive. The problem is that many retain it with fear or spend it with anxiety, and both extremes block it. The magic mind understands that money, when it circulates with intention, becomes expansion, that it's not about saving out of fear or spending to cover voids. It's about directing the flow with consciousness, about turning each peso into an expression of your vibration. Because money is not just what you have, it's what you do with what you have. This code awakens the channel of energetic circulation. It's the place where you learn to make a clean bridge between receiving and giving, without guilt, without fear, without self-sabotage. Because when money enters and you don't know where it goes, it evaporates, and when it leaves from disorder, it becomes a leak. But when it enters and leaves from clarity, abundance begins to repeat itself because you're no longer blocking it. You're creating a system that respects it. There are people who earn well, but always feel in scarcity, not because they don't have, but because their energy is disorganized. They charge, but don't register. They pay, but without consciousness. They buy to fill voids and then blame themselves. And all that cycle creates internal confusion, and confusion generates stagnation because the magic mind can't operate in chaos. It needs direction and it needs movement. Your practical activation for this code is to create your system of conscious circulation. Divide each income into clear parts. One for your personal or professional growth, another for enjoyment, because money is also honored by celebrating it. Another for savings, but not from anxiety, but from power, and another for expansion, for something that stretches you beyond the usual. What's important is not the quantity, it's the intention. Because when money knows where it's going, it wants to return, and it returns and returns and returns. The magic mind doesn't accumulate out of fear, it flows with mastery, because it knows that what stagnates rots, but what circulates with consciousness multiplies. In the next code, you're going to discover how your daily emotions are building your financial reality, even though you don't realize it, and how changing them changes everything. Code 5, the emotional magnet. You don't attract what you say, you don't even attract what you think. You attract what you feel while you think. And that's why this code doesn't activate with theory, it activates with emotional truth. The magic mind isn't built by repeating affirmations you don't feel. It's built by aligning what you say with what you believe and with what vibrates in you every time you talk about money. This is one of the most revealing codes because it forces you to stop lying to yourself, to stop repeating that everything is fine if inside you continue feeling fear, shame, doubt, or guilt every time you see your bank account. The emotions you have when charging, when spending, when asking, when investing, when saving, are what are shaping your economic reality more than your effort, more than your talent, more than your strategy. Because money doesn't respond to intellect, it responds to vibration. And vibration is manufactured with emotion. If every time you pay something you feel tension, if every time you charge you feel discomfort, if every time you see someone with money you feel judgment or envy, then that's the frequency you're sustaining. And that frequency is a constant message that tells life, I'm not ready for more. I remember a person who affirmed every day, I am abundant. But every time she had to charge for her work, she lowered her gaze. Every time someone asked her about her prices, she justified herself before saying them. And every time she spent on herself, she felt guilty. It wasn't a lack of knowledge, it was a lack of emotional coherence. And it doesn't matter how many books you read if your body continues reacting with fear to money. That's why this code doesn't ask you to think better, it asks you to feel differently. And for that, first you have to observe. Your practical activation is the Financial Emotions Journal. For 3 days, record how you feel every time money enters and leaves. Don't just note it, observe it. Did you feel light, heavy, grateful, guilty, at peace, in tension? What do you think when someone pays you? What do you feel when you spend on something for yourself? And when you invest in something that expands you? Because there is the root of your relationship with money, and if you don't change it, everything else will be effort without transformation. The magic mind doesn't need you to lie, it needs you to clean. And you can only clean what you dare to look at, because what is felt is transformed, and what is transformed begins to bring something completely new. In the next code, you're going to discover how to speak the language of abundance, even when you're still healing your economy, and how each phrase can open or close the doors of your magic mind. Code 6, the language that invokes. Your words are spells. Each phrase you repeat with emotion is a command that your mind executes without discussing. That's why this code doesn't activate with silence, it activates with consciousness, because you can't repeat I am abundant if all day you're saying it's not enough for me. You can't manifest wealth if your vocabulary is full of limitations. The magic mind needs to be fed with a language that expands, that affirms, that projects. And that language isn't used only in meditations, it's used in the everyday, in how you talk about your finances, about your prices, about your expenses, in how you talk to money when you have it and also when you don't. I discovered this code once when I heard myself speak. Yes, I heard myself, not with my mind, but with my body. And I realized that every time I said, I'm broke, even if it was as a joke, something contracted in me. Every time I said this is impossible, something inside me gave up. It was as if my own words were turning off the light I was trying to turn on with so much intention. And I understood something. It's not just what you say. It's how you say it, when you say it, and from where you say it, because language is not innocent. Language programs your frequency, and if you use it out of habit, it can become your greatest enemy. There are people who believe in abundance, but live talking about how expensive everything is, that they never have enough, that nobody pays them what they deserve. And they say it automatically, without noticing that with each phrase they're reinforcing an identity, the identity of the one who can't, the one who doesn't arrive, the one who doesn't deserve. And the magic mind can't flourish from that narrative, because language is the voice of the soul. And if your soul expresses itself with scarcity, life has no other option but to return the same to you. That's why this code is so powerful, because it may seem simple, but it transforms from the root. And it's not about speaking nicely, it's about speaking with power, with intention, with direction. Your practical activation is very clear. For 3 days, record all the phrases you say about money, even the smallest ones. From "this is very expensive" to "I can't pay for that," or "surely it will go badly for me again." And every time you identify a limiting phrase, stop, breathe, and change that phrase out loud to an expansive version. If you say "it's not enough for me," correct. "I'm learning to reorganize my resources so that it will be enough for me." If you say "this is too expensive for me," change to "right now it's not in my flow, but I can open myself to generating more." It's not about lying, it's about speaking like someone who knows that their current situation is not their final destiny. The magic mind needs a language that awakens it, and you already know it. It's the language of possibility, of growth, of permission. A language that doesn't deny what you feel, but that names what you choose to create. And every time you use it, something in you expands, something in you organizes, something in you begins to receive more. The next code will teach you the most subtle law of all, that of energetic coherence, and how, when you align your mind, your actions, and your habits, abundance no longer has excuses not to stay. Code 7. The silent integration. The magic mind doesn't shout. It doesn't need to show off. It doesn't prove itself with words. It confirms itself in the smallest acts. This last code doesn't activate with what you say you believe, but with what you do when no one is looking, because energy isn't impressed by your speeches. It responds to your coherence. And coherence isn't something perfect. It's something constant. It's choosing to align yourself again and again with what you know you are, with what you know you deserve, with what you know you're already ready to sustain. This code is the most invisible and therefore the most powerful, because many people take courses, read books, meditate, visualize, write down goals. But in their day-to-day, they continue making decisions that contradict all that. They continue spending from fear, charging from guilt, speaking from complaint, relating to money as if they didn't trust what they've learned. And it's not that they don't understand it, it's that they haven't integrated it. And the magic mind doesn't activate in fragments. It needs totality. It needs what you think, feel, and do to speak in the same language. This code takes you to observe your smallest habits, those that seem harmless but are sabotaging your expansion. You say you want financial freedom, but you live checking your account every half hour with anxiety. You say you deserve to charge more, but you continue accepting less because you're embarrassed to make others uncomfortable. You say you're in abundance, but every time you buy something for yourself, you feel guilt or justify your decision. That's where integration shows. In the silences, in the spaces where you're no longer trying to convince anyone, not even yourself. The practical activation of this code is simple, but not easy. For a week, every time you make a decision regarding money, stop for a second and ask yourself, is this coherent with the person I want to be? If it is, continue. If it's not, make an adjustment. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it consciously. Because when your actions begin to reflect your internal choices, everything aligns, and not by external magic, but because you became the channel that no longer contradicts what it asks for. The magic mind becomes unstoppable when you yourself become a clean magnetic field, when you no longer send contradictory messages to the universe, when your vibration is so clear that it needs no explanation, only presence, only truth, only coherence. Everything you heard was not theory. It was not a nice speech about money or a compilation of motivational phrases. It was a map, a journey toward the most forgotten place of all, the energetic center from where you can create real abundance. Not from obsession, not from sacrifice, but from alignment. Because when you activate the correct codes in your mind, your pocket responds. First, you gave direction to your energy and understood that nothing can manifest if you don't know what you want it for. Then, you released dead weight, you created space, you cleaned the channel, because the new only enters when you let go of the old. Then, you put a clear price on your presence, and recognized that the world doesn't pay you for what you do, but for how much you value yourself while doing it. Then, you learned to circulate money from consciousness, not from fear. You understood that what doesn't move stagnates, and what is given from power returns multiplied. Then, you went deeper and discovered that your true financial frequency is not in your thoughts. It's in how you feel every time you talk, charge, spend, or dream about money. You cleaned that emotion, and then you cleaned your words. You changed limiting phrases for expansive declarations, and each word became a key, one that opens or closes invisible portals. Finally, you arrived at the most silent code, coherence, because it doesn't matter how much you know if your habits are not aligned with what you say you want. And by integrating all the codes, you became a channel of clarity, channel of expansion, channel of wealth, channel of truth. That is a magic mind, a mind that thinks with purpose, feels with permission, speaks with power, and acts with coherence. A mind that no longer competes, doesn't crawl, doesn't betray itself. A mind that trusts so much in what it sustains that the universe has no other option but to respond to it with abundance. And a full pocket is not the result of working harder. It's the inevitable reflection of a mind that stopped getting in the way of its own abundance. Because wealth is not something that is forced, it's something that is allowed, and you already have everything you need to allow it. So every time you feel you're getting lost, return to this map. Return to the code that made you most uncomfortable, because there is your greatest door. Return to your value, to your emotion, to your language, to your purpose, and activate it again and again and again until your way of thinking, feeling, speaking, and acting becomes something that doesn't need to be remembered because you're already inhabiting it. A magic mind doesn't wait for miracles, it provokes them. And a full pocket is not a destination. It's a natural consequence of someone who learned to be in their center, without guilt, without doubt, without permission. Now you know it. Activate it and don't turn it off anymore. If this message resonated with you and you're ready to keep activating your magic mind, subscribe to the channel right now. Don't let this be just another video you watched. Make it the beginning of your transformation. Hit that subscribe button, activate the notification bell, and join this community of people who are choosing to think, feel, and create differently. Your abundance is waiting for you, and we're here to walk this path together. Subscribe now, and let's keep growing.